So the purpose of the meeting tonight is to discuss the potential purchase agreement or purchase offer that we made on the property, also known as the Moose Club.
Wow!
Exciting?
That is a mammoth building. You know that, right?
Wow.
No.
Oh, it's gigantic.
Yeah, it's huge.
It
The
is
basement
huge.
big.
I've
Yeah.
never been inside.
Oh my gosh.
Nora and I have.
Yeah. It was.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
Open the
we
meeting.
should, yes.
Okay, so the meeting is now open at
Well,
7:45, 7:44.
the closed session is open.
The closed session is open now. Thank
Wow.
you.
Do you want to say who's present?
That's good,
attorney
Those present include all members of the city council, city attorney Ron Beatty, Mr. Kaneko, Mr. Funk, Ms. Paulseth, and myself, city manager. So the purpose of the meeting tonight was to present to you a purchase agreement that we had to buy the property. We offered, Dewey can get into the details, but we made an offer to the Moose Club of $880,000, which if you see on the map, it's a really great property. It's highlighted in red. Over the weekend, the Moose Club received another offer that is higher than what we presented. For $925 for a counter
Yeah,
offer, or-
they had submitted an offer along with our offer originally, and then they came back with a counter offer. We're not aware of what that price point is.
I
However,
thought you had a number, sorry.
well, we did, okay, then fast forward, we just got another offer that Ron has in front of him just before our workshop started. And they came back and countered our offer from $880 to $925. So we're not sure what's going on with that second party bid that was presented. That offer was presented to the Moose Lodge, to their board here a week ago Saturday. But our offer was $880,000, and there's that map that Ms. Coleman was referring to. It's a little over 2 acres. It's 2.06 acres. And I gave you a little information on our comp plan. Most of you are well aware of this, but this area will be re-guided to mixed-use community. It's current under the mixed-use Gladstone master plan that was approved, Melinda, 2007, I believe. Had a max units at 31 per acre. The new land use brings that number up to 50. So we can, in the Gladstone area, we can build up to 50 units per acre. So just to give you some background there on that, I should go over, if I can real quickly, there's some information here on the comp plan, and that's that same information I just shared with you. The second piece is our capital improvement plan, and Ms. Paulson can speak to that. The third is that map that Ms. Coleman had pointed out. The 2018 assessed value for those 3 parcels is just shy of $817,000. It's $869,000. Our offer of $880 reflected an 8% increase over that number. A couple things to pay attention to in there. One, it doesn't include the commission. Our commission working with our broker, 7%. And the second piece there, it doesn't include demolition. So when Mr. Beatty reviews the purchase agreement, we've got some conditions in there that speak to the demolition of that building. So we are, if the offer is accepted, and we can talk more about that, it would be subject to an environmental assessment. The building was constructed in 1964. So it's 55 years old. There might be some issues there with asbestos and those kinds of things. And that's something that we should know prior to purchasing the property. So we have a second offer now that they came back and they countered our offer, $925. Mr. Beatty and I and Melinda were talking, should we wait, should we proceed? Where does council want to land here with this?
Do we know anything about the other offer?
We do not, other than, and I had shared this with Melinda as well, we believe that they're looking at a banquet/community center there. So kind of a similar use to to what's going on there now. In fact, both of them would be an allowable use. It wouldn't require any special approvals from council because it's a continued use of what they have in place now. But we don't know that for sure, but that's what we were
So
told.
we'd buy it and then they'd use it for their own purpose?
We don't know, it's still kind of muddy yet.
Did they say anything else with the 925 offer?
Well, let me just be clear, because I think I misunderstood originally what was being said. As Dewey said, we made an offer of $880. This is the Moose Lodge's counter offered back to us. They're countering back
I
at
thought it was another
$925.
offer.
I don't know, this doesn't tell us anything about there being another offer, which there may be. They're simply rejecting our $880
Okay.
and countering at $925.
We've had a lot of interest in this property, by the way. I've had a few phone calls,
Yeah.
you have too.
Right, there is a second offer out there, however. We just don't know what that looks like.
All right, it's fair enough. So we know that they've rejected our $880. There's presumably another offer, maybe higher than ours. We don't know what it is. It could be $1 more. They're doing what they should be doing, trying to get more money. And so we can decide whether we want to accept this, reject this, or counter. In terms of the contingencies in the agreement, there were the standard two. One, the title be good. Secondly, that we do environmental review, as Dewey said. The third one, which is a little bit unusual, is that the property has to qualify for inclusion in a tax increment district, which basically means that the building or buildings in that area have to be substandard to qualify for a redevelopment tax increment district.
We believe that the building is
Yeah.
in need of a lot of work,
Yeah.
a pretty high number. I think the options here, besides what Ron has outlined, is a preference as to whether we want to take the lead role in the redevelopment of this parcel, or whether we want to let the private sector take the lead in the role of this development of this parcel. And so that's kind of the policy directive that we're looking for tonight. And if you do want us to counter, what kind of offer would that be? Those are, the things that we need to talk about.
Can I ask a question about we believe that the other party who may be interested in this piece is interested in another kind of entertainment event center?
Correct, using the same facility as it is, as a banquet event center. That's what we're being told. Now, I haven't ground truth that. I think, guys, I was talking to Rhonda, I don't know. That's
Okay.
what we're being told.
I mean, it seems like it's a prime spot for housing because it's right by the senior housing and the other housing, and it's
Well,
right by the trail,
the other-
both trails.
I know,
And
by
that's-
our transit
The
coming
transit
through.
piece is the key,
Huge.
Yeah.
albeit that's down the road. And we did meet with Mr. Beatty, myself, our bond attorneys last week, and had the discussion regarding the TIF piece. And the numbers do work with regard to this particular parcel. And the numbers that we were crunching last week were based on 31 units per acre. Now, as soon as the comp plan is approved and adopted, that number goes up to 50. And the numbers that we were using, again, were based on the values that the Sherman property has. The county has those valued at 190 per unit for phase one. Sherman had them at 130, and that was a number that was embedded in our TIF plan. So we have, not only do we have plenty of capacity there, but the number of units also jump up to 50. So as opposed to a 60-unit building, we could conceivably put up, close to 100 units here.
Another question, why do we have to make this a TIF deal? I mean, if we're buying it and we're going to then encourage developers, I mean, my preference would be housing because of the whole transit piece. I'm not really thrilled about an entertainment facility at that location. I mean, that doesn't really strike me. I understand that it's zoned that way, but it seems to be an opportunity for us to redevelop that area with housing.
Mhm.
But why do we want to make this a TIF? If we're going to buy it,
Right.
why are we going to make
Well-
it a TIF? Because if transit comes through, this is going to be a great piece of property.
You want to go or should I?
Yeah, let me first of all explain what Dewey said about the numbers, or what he meant was, if we had to recover the full amount that we paid for the property, and last week we were working at 880, so the numbers are a little bit higher, if we were able to create a redevelopment tax increment district out of this and perhaps other parcels in that block, which is a 25-year district, running the numbers, would we be able, in the course of the 25 years, to be able to get that money back? And the answer was yes. Why do it as a tax increment district? Because how are you going to get your money back? I mean, in other words, if we bought this property, 880, 925, whatever the number is, if we could turn around and sell it for that or more, there'd be no reason to do that. What I think we're anticipating is that we're going to have to write down the cost of the land to something less than we paid, maybe zero, I don't know. And there might be additional assistance that would be requested and or required. So we're going to spend $1 million, use round numbers. How are we going to get that back? Tax increment offers the opportunity to create a district. The value that's here now is the base value. The increase is the increment that pays. And over the course of that district, or some number of years, we would recoup that money. That's why tax increment.
How would we get zero out of it?
I'm anticipating worst case. In other words, we spend $925,000 and we have to give the property away to a developer.
That's
That's typical redevelopment.
Yeah, so I mean,
Not necessarily this particular parcel because it's a large parcel, but with Sherman, we put money into the deal.
if we can sell it for something, great. I'm just trying to lay out the worst
Yeah.
case. And it may get worse than that if there is a request, well, again, worst case, a request for some other kind of assistance for some soil correction or infrastructure or other things. We can't put money into bricks and mortar. We can't build the building for them. But we could be asked to do another couple $100,000 worth of assistance. And so tax increment is the way to recover that money.
Question. Is there some thought of the other two properties there ever being available in a reasonable amount of time?
We have reached out to both of them. In fact, the 1315 is a stucco company, and over the weekend, we did receive a comment from them that this individual has no intent of selling that property until he retires. And that could be 20 years from now. But there again,
Unless there's
money
something in it.
there, and that's the driver here is that piece. The individual that owns 1321 has not returned our call.
What is that property? That is.
That's where Diane had her office.
That's,
That's the one.
Doesn't have it there now.
Yeah, but it's a
I
little
know.
strip.
it's a little,
It's a
there's
The
little
four.
tattoo parlor?
Yes,
and
and
the-
then
And
laundromat.
Diane and the laundromat,
Is
okay.
that parking behind it?
There is parking
Yeah.
right to the north of it.
Yeah.
You know, that, I drove by there the other day after the meeting. 1321 to me did not look like it was in bad shape. There are two buildings, 1315, and then there's another one just to, I guess that would be the west, both of which are in terrible shape.
Yeah.
That whole piece looks awful, which is significant in the sense that if we can't acquire that or can't acquire it for a decent price, I think that would negatively influence
Yes.
whatever you could put here because people will be looking out their back window.
At that.
That thing.
It's like that Oswald firehouse. The senior people look right at
Looking
that.
right at that, yeah.
Yeah, I think people are holding out for money.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea that we're doing this or thinking about this, you know, because it is a huge piece and if it's situated right next to that other housing and
Yes.
the TIF, is a tool. And that's how we have to
Yes,
look at it. How I look at it is it's a tool that we use to try to recoup our our investment, but whether it's we develop it or private sector, don't we want the private sector? Do we know if Sherman or anybody's
Well,
interested, or?
In fact, we've got a meeting again with Sherman on Friday, and this is one of the projects that we're gonna be, depending on where council lands here. Yeah, they would be something, or some folks that we would contact. There may be others as well, but there's a couple more opportunities that are going on too in the Gladstone neighborhood as well. But we don't quite yet have a deal on them.
So what are the other deals going on in Gladstone?
Are we able to?
Can we talk about that, Ron, in the context?
Well,
Well, you can talk limitedly about that, I mean.
Just in the context of what this property might
Yes,
look
and that was
like.
key. I mean, it
Yeah.
says really what we're talking about is what offer or counter offer should we make on this?
Right.
All right, if you go to your second to last page, there's a map there of the whole Gladstone area there. You'll see the hash marks there, and there's a number there. If you go to number 14, just to give you an indication, that's 1375. That's the old city hall there. So I did meet with them, that group on Friday, and we're close to reaching an agreement there. And if we were able to secure that, and we run the numbers here as well, property number 11 is a rental house. We would also acquire that property as well, square that up, and there'd be another opportunity there.
Wait a minute, that can't be the.
14 and 11?
Yeah,
14 can't be the
14,
old city hall, it's on the north side of the street.
or that's the old,
Gladstone?
yes.
The old Gladstone
No,
house.
Yeah, that's the old Gladstone house.
Yeah.
City Hall, I'm sorry, thank
It's
you,
seven,
that's
yeah.
number 8.
Right.
Yeah, that's right, okay.
Yeah, that's and then there's a land, we've worked with Melinda's guidance. We have a deal worked out with the Filipino board to swap that land as well. So 10 and 7 would exchange hands. We own property number 7 now. Filipino Center owns property number 10, so we do a land swap there. And then we would purchase property 11.
Got it.
Oh,
So there'd be
okay.
enough area there
yeah.
to do another housing and maybe some retail there as well. So we should know something by the end of this week on that. And then Ron and I are working on a deal on the west side of Sherman, Al's Automotive. And we're working on the
Yeah.
price point there.
That's 24.
That is number 24, correct.
So in terms of numbers here, our last bid was 880 plus roughly about 7%. What's 7% of that, Ellie?
$60,000.
60,000? Okay,
Roughly.
60,000, I was higher than that. Okay, and what are we looking at for demo?
You know, it could be 125,000. Just to give you an idea, we've got 2 quotes to remove the old furniture store, and they came in at 75,000. You know, both,
And this is bigger.
this is bigger, and there may be some issues here too as well.
It would be helpful in these conversations if we could kind of get all the numbers out, you know, kind of a pro forma business case kind of thing.
We're looking at
It's
a
just,
million.
it's just hard when we're
65.
picking these numbers out of the air to track.
So Ellie, where do we get $1,065,000?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
Yes, I have $1 million
Does have
question
total
for you, Ellie. Where do we get that to
So,
buy this?
so
And we
we-
know that that's not enough at this point because somebody else is interested.
Our intent was to issue bonds, and we were going to do that over a 3-year period as these properties became available. Shown on the CIP sheet, there we were looking at $2 million for this year. What we had wanted or hoped to do was sell TIF bonds, but just there aren't enough components together yet to get a TIF district organized. So we have to somehow finance it in the interim and preserve our ability to pay ourselves back with TIF once we do sell TIF bonds. So we talked about a number of options, and one of the options for this property was doing an interfund loan, using some surplus from the sewer fund or the water fund, and then setting up a loan agreement between that fund and the new fund, the development fund. And then when the TIF bonds were issued and the TIF
Refinance.
started, that's one option that preserves the ability to sell TIF bonds in the future. It's a little bit too soon to know So it was decided we needed to get more pieces in place before we could actually issue TIF funds. Did I get that?
No, that's right. I mean, because we went into the meeting thinking we were going to include the tax increment bonds with some other, I think we came to the conclusion it was just premature. Ellie's correct. I mean, you're going to have to pull this money out of someplace. Finding it in one of the other funds, sewer and water or whatever else, is perfectly reasonable. You do an inter-fund loan resolution, which is required by the tax increment statute. But what that does mean is that you're starting down the path of doing a district at some point, because you're gonna want to pay that sewer and water fund or wherever you get the money from back.
Yeah.
And the way that happens is by creating a district. So you're taking the first step towards creating a district that's gonna have a project that's gonna generate the income that over time will be able to pay that interfund loan off. If it doesn't happen, then your sewer and water fund has just bought this piece of property.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel that simple.
I have to say that it is, I really appreciate everyone's work on this. I see this as very bold, very creative, and I think that this area needs something like this. This area has been sitting basically fallow for years, and it's just basically deteriorating. I certainly see this as an opportunity, and if we are, who are the futurists in here, Mayor?
Yep.
Any other futurists?
Look at this
Okay.
map, yeah.
I'm not a futurist either,
That's
but
it.
I think this is a good idea.
I look at that this is bold, this is very futuristic, and I think that our city has to do something like this. We have all of these things coming together with transit coming in here, and this is going to change the dynamics of our city. You know, I look at what else is happening in our city. I look at, you know, not that far away, we've got the mall, and we've got that kind of sinking, and how do we shore that up? But we've got to, I think we have to be bold on this, and I am not a gambler. You know, I'm rather, you probably know I'm rather fiscally conservative, but I think that our city needs something like this if we are going to get where we want to be. We aren't gonna do this little bits at a time. It's just not gonna happen.
And
So-
this might help to force a couple other issues.
Right.
Besides, I don't think it's gonna take too long if we start doing some other decent housing and this is moving east, that blankety-blank trailer park will go away.
I agree with Mary Lee. I think also this property is a linchpin to the neighborhood. If we don't
Yep.
get this one, we might as well forget it. I mean, it's one of the corners.
It's a major corner.
This needs to be a part of the story. I'm really concerned about that parcel 20, the stucco business.
Well, but maybe if you see something
Well-
happening, he'll roll.
Honestly, what my concern is once everybody around there really understands what's happening, that it's gonna start a price escalation. And so I'm wondering if we have any code options there to just start. Also, I think we need to not all of a sudden show up and start enforcing all kinds of stuff, but if we start just incrementally trying to do some enforcement there,
Send Chris over.
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I mean, we just have to do it, and we have to, I think it's sort of all or nothing here.
You know, the alternative, this idea, even if it was a possible entertainment type facility, we know how great the myth is going with that. We don't know. I think I want to be more affirmative and more intentional and direct that this would be housing and this would be some retail kinds of things and some really up the game
And
in our
if we do
city.
that down the road to the east, where the Maplewood Bakery and everything is, that's getting pretty seedy.
Mhm.
That could be another place where somebody could go more for that type of thing,
Right,
because there's plenty of property in there too.
redevelopment.
Yes.
People might be willing to redo their building, you know, I
I mean,
mean,
yeah, I think it's so close to actually the Sherman property and then this property, the original
Yeah.
Sherman property, and then this one. I just
Yeah,
don't see that we
yeah.
should skip it.
No.
I think we can
So we
push the
Yeah.
alternatives down to that next block.
Yeah.
And it might come more and
Oh,
down the road, having a fire station.
Yeah, I think if you look at this map, it kind of
Yeah.
shows you what it would look like
Right.
potentially, if we could buy out those ones, do that,
Yeah.
do this piece down here. And then that, maybe that's enough for a TIF district, but I think we want to move forward, so what else, what other
The
decisions?
next question would be how much you want to offer. What would you like to counter?
Well, what do you think makes sense?
So we're at a $45,000 difference right now?
Yeah, it's like, you made an offer on a piece of property for $880. The sellers come back at another $45,000, so I would
I
suggest
would recommend
accepting.
we just do the 9 1/4 and not lose this other 25 grand or something. I mean,
Is that what they proposed to us, is 9
Yeah.
1/4?
Yeah.
And is there anything weird about that 9 1/4?
They're
I mean,
trying-
anything that, I mean, you've seen the paperwork that.
Well, I just saw it. All they did was take my document.
You know there's nothing weird in there.
And some cross out.
That's really okay.
Cross out 880 and put 925 in,
My kind of red line.
you know?
Yeah.
So they're going,
But then what
We could
about this
get-
other party?
Well, I haven't read anything else in
Well,
there.
there's nothing in there that references the other party in that agreement.
And we don't know about the other party.
Well, no, there's not gonna be anything in here. I mean, this is the agreement that they're trying to work with us. So you can accept this and know that you have a deal, or you can do what people normally do. They counter and they kind of go back and forth.
918.
I think we want to accept it, as what
Yeah.
I'm hearing from you guys, right? Is
I
just,
mean,
let's not
we
lose
could try
this.
900 and see if we can save a few bucks, but to me, it just feels like,
But if there's another party in on this,
Yeah,
I
I
think
just-
that,
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
wondering.
just go
Is
with that.
that why
we
they're
don't
doing
know
this?
We
what
don't
that-
know
I
for
mean,
sure.
I'm not trying to talk you into or out of anything.
Right.
I wouldn't get too
Oh, attorney-ish.
buffaloed by that, because we don't know that there is another party. It could be
Yeah.
his brother-in-law saying, yeah. You know, we don't know what the dollar amount is.
Extensive money to remodel and to get back in there and try to
Oh.
reoccupy that is a significant investment, probably $100,000.
I think what we do know.
probably more than that. I mean,
It's
that
pretty
is a.
I think one thing we do know is that there is a lot of interest in this property.
mhm.
And for those event centers, I think they're definitely, so, 9 1/4.
This is basically 13% over tax value, which to me seems like a pretty good deal, if we came in 9 1/4. I mean, that's a
I
13%.
can live
And
with the 9 1/4.
Our target is 20 to 25%. I mean,
Right.
that's what the other is. where we're-
That'll happen next, after we
What?
start going here, that'll be the next.
And then I would like to discuss real briefly the other two adjoining pieces. Then, does it make sense to try to actively pursue those two other properties? So it's on the back of this map.
Don't be
Flip
worried.
that over, those other two pieces are there, and you can see the price point there as well.
Yeah, and there, but that one is really jumpy.
The 13, 15.
Oh.
I think so. I
Which
mean,
is
I
gonna
don't
be-
know at what point code enforcement becomes extortion.
Well,
Well, you
No, I'm serious, I mean,
do need to be a little careful of that.
that's
Yes,
what
we
I'm
do.
concerned about, that's why I'm saying, I think starting small and making sure that,
Yeah.
but
I guess my thought is there, obviously we're gonna have to pay more than that value there. Is there a number, can we, if we were to go maybe, say 20% above each of those values, would that be acceptable to council?
And then get all of them?
And then get that whole
If we
piece?
could, yeah.
Why does
Yeah.
this feel like
Yeah.
Monopoly?
Yeah.
It does, it feels like Monopoly.
Well,
it is
I want Mark Place.
Get all the
the
eats.
redevelopment business and,
Let me just say one other thing. Again, this is all assuming that we're going to be able to create a redevelopment tax increment district. One of the keys of which is that more than 50% of the principal structures will be deemed through investigation to be substandard.
Well, 13, 15 has certainly added to it.
Well, the reason I'm raising that is, as I said, if we buy the lodge, we've got a provision in there, a contingency in there, that it has to qualify. what that's gonna mean is that before we closed on the property, we get LHB to do a review and find out whether this property qualified as a redevelopment district. If the district is only the Moose property, then there's only one principal building. That's the only structure that needs to be found to be substandard, because you got more than 50%. As you start adding additional buildings, you have to keep the math in mind. As I said, I drove by very quickly, 1321 didn't look like it was in bad shape to me. I don't know what other
But
people.
1315 is.
I know.
So would that inspire 1321
I
to
don't
do
know.
anything
I don't know.
themselves?
Let me
But
ask a question.
my point is, even if you get 1315, then, well, it's also substandard, so all right.
Yeah, I
So my
talked to-
question is though, so say we bought all three parcels here.
Yep.
Would we be looking at that 50% number as the group of the three
Yes.
or each individually?
No,
Okay.
it's whatever you put in the tax increment district.
So the footage of that moose lot should help the overall, because it's a big building?
No, it counts as one building.
1321 is not good. I've talked to the landlord. The landlord called me about Diana Laundrie's office because she was hoarding and there was animals in her office.
Besides her
which is the end one in here. So that particular office, which now her shingle is gone, there's something wrong with it. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, so I guess what we're asking, one, if you want us to counter to 900, we can do that. Knowing that if they say 925, is council committed to that number?
Yes.
Okay, and the second one, do you have a tolerance to go above and beyond the asking price up to 20% as a
Yes.
starter?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, we won't go any further. Just,
That's- yeah.
you know, we'll have another discussion on those other parcels, and we'll talk again about the tax increment stuff, because, again, I want everybody to understand what you can and can't do. And if we buy it, if we're successful in buying this property, Ellie's gonna pull that money out of some fund, and then, as I said, we're starting down the road of having to figure out how we're gonna reimburse that money.
Right.
We're making round numbers.
Well, I think that what I hear you saying is that we're making this contingent on this being a TIF district.
Yes,
If
yes,
eligible.
yes.
If eligible,
But what that means is that you've got to figure out on this property, what can you qualify as a district? And you may or may not be able to include all of it. I mean, if there are three principal structures on this block, two of them have to be substandard to be included to make it a district. So you got to figure that out. You've got to get a developer. You've got to have some, even if you give the property away, you got to have somebody who's willing to come in and build something that's going to create value, because that's the only way you're going to get any increment. Something's got to happen within 5 years. There's a 5-year knockdown rule. I mean, we're setting in place things that have to happen. And it's not until there's a project and somebody's built something and somebody's paying taxes that there's increment to reimburse this. I'm not trying to discourage anybody, I just want everybody to understand what we're talking
But
about.
we wouldn't create a TIF district until we had a project.
Well,
Is that
that's true,
correct?
but you've spent the money.
But we've spent the money
I
as
get that. I
the
get that.
issue.
That's a risk.
You know, Oak Hill did that, and you know, it's still not developed as the Tanner's Lake area where Toby's was and all that, and so they went to the legislature and they did get an extension on the TIF, because I voted.
They don't
for
have
that.
Melinda call them.
Pardon me?
They don't have Melinda call them.
Well, I'm just saying if we had to, Melinda would go to the legislature
I love that.
and ask. for-
Yeah.
You get your steps in over there.
Melinda's right, we would not create the district until we had to, because all kinds of clocks start running. But in the meantime.
We bought
We're out,
we
we
spent
bought
$1
some
million.
property and
bought
we're
an
out the
expensive piece
money.
of property.
Are we okay with that, Ellie?
I think so. I have a number of different things that are swirling right now.
Where we can make this work?
Yeah.
Okay,
Would
And
it
she
be,
knows who we are, so.
yeah.
would it be possible and appropriate and legal for us to?
In what order is that?
For us, and to help Dewey and Melinda potentially to just have a closed session of sort of a Gladstone purchasing strategy session where we go property by property and give them guidance so that we don't have to do this every time.
Well, you need to be
they wanna buy.
considering making offers or counter offers. I mean, it can't just be a
Right.
planning session. It does have to be in the context of considering offers.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you could certainly bifurcate that. You could have a general planning session,
Mhm.
an open session to talk about stuff. And then if there are specific properties that you want to consider making offers, you could close the meeting. I'd be a little bit reluctant to have a general discussion about offers in the whole area, because we don't have enough money, I don't think, to buy everything.
Interesting. I wonder if-
But I'm just to kind of say that, all right, the council talked about parcel, you know,
I think we could
25.
prioritize parcels and see
Right.
how parcels assemble together and do that kind of thing. And Dewey has kind of set the foundation for that with his maps, so we could have a workshop on that. We just don't talk dollars.
Well, and we'll have that workshop
We
coming
could
up.
talk
in May.
assess values, what
We're-
we have.
That's
Is that something that we really want to do, though, in the event that we have this, so many possibilities?
It would be a high-level
That's right.
discussion. We wouldn't get into the numbers piece, but just to show you, to illustrate what it is that we're trying to do and show that to make sure council's on board with that.
Is there a downside of making something like that public?
I
When
don't
we're
think so,
talking
because
about,
we've been through several planning processes with that neighborhood, and, you know, just a year ago, we had Mike Brass send letters to everybody
Yeah.
saying, are you interested in selling?
Okay.
We've all had conversations with different
Yeah.
property owners.
Every property that's marked with a number there has received a letter.
okay.
But, you know, I thought of that Lions Park thing, I mean, you know, that kind of thing, and I went and stirred up Hornet's Nest, and they kicked it, and they got it.
Yeah,
Going,
I think
you know.
everybody's been put on notice, this has been going on for years.
Well, yeah,
that
the
we're
auto
trying
guys
to
have been going
do
like this for
And most of
15
them are
years.
going like this,
Yeah.
when's it gonna be my turn, when's the city gonna make me an offer?
auto guys for sure.
Well, I think in a lot of ways, Dewey has been sort of reactive to people who have indicated.
That they're ready.
That's right. So, I mean,
You want these back?
Yeah.
You know, maybe what, if we just put our names on them?
Actually, you could keep, there's nothing confidential in
all-
there.
Are we okay
Maps,
with that?
no.
Okay.
There isn't.
This is, this
Okay.
is
Why
like
keep it?
Yeah, there's nothing confidential. in
Okay,
that.
we'll keep it.
So our-
Yeah, who's gonna
so we have
summarize?
a little for
Yeah.
900, and then we'll wait to see if we have authority
If you
for.
say 900 first, and then if they don't accept that, go to
And
925.
925,
925
yeah.
first.
I thought I heard 925 right off the.
Yeah.
Well,
Are we
so
going
Somebody said
925
900.
So let's be clear what it is. So that, I mean, it sounds like what we're saying is counter at 900, but staff has authority to go up to 925.
I thought we were gonna counter at 925. I
thought we
mean,
were
just,
gonna-
let's just
You
get
guys
this
gotta
done.
decide.
I thought 925.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
that's
I'm fine with
Yeah, that's
925.
what me too.
I don't care.
That was their
Get it
offer.
done.
Yeah.
We're not really doing the dance
Two, were
with
you okay
real
with
estate.
925? I thought so, okay. Good enough.
My only, I think if we just authorize staff up to 925, it does give us a little
We
wiggle room.
could start lower and see where we
Give
get.
us a little wiggle room, because we don't know to what extent this whole other counter offer is.
Is
To
real.
me, this is what jumps out at me, and that is, if they're countering at 925, that tells me something. I'm not sure what, but one thing that we do have, or if there's another offer, is guaranteed money. If they have another, we don't know that, but if they do, a lot of times developers, they don't have cash in hand of 925. They're pulling investors in,
Right, yeah.
I mean, they're a long ways away from
They gotta
writing a
assemble
check
the
for
money.
925. What we
Yeah.
provide is guaranteed money. And so I think we could talk about a
Print.
counter offer strategy that maybe it is 900, and we can say we can close in 30, 60 days.
Why don't we do
That's
this? Why don't we
appealing.
give staff the authority to do that and then
Yeah.
top
That's
at
good.
925?
Good
But
comment.
you're actually at the table and you can see and read and,
Yeah,
are you okay with that?
But yeah,
I agree with
that's
Mike.
what
I
we're
think
gonna-
that's the best
don't
thing to
lose
do.
good.
I think they're expecting a counter. I mean, think about when you bought or sold a
Yeah.
house. That's what people do. I think they're probably accepting a counter. I like giving staff a little bit more flexibility so that we don't have to come back in
Oh,
2 weeks
great.
and 2 weeks and 2 weeks. So we counter at 900, they
No,
come back
not
at
yet.
910, and we got a deal. Okay.
Okay,
That
I'm
sounds
fine
good.
with that.
So who, do you want me to
Yes.
summarize? Are you gonna summarize, Ron, when we get back in?
Either way. I can.
Is there a motion that needs to be made on
I think all we're gonna say is, council discussed the matter and has given staff direction to make a counteroffer or, you know, so I'm not gonna say any numbers.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
maybe just to respond to the offer, or the
Yes.
counter offer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
All right.
So
So
we
is there a
should-
motion
we should
to
indicate that-
close the
yeah.
closed session?
We should
good with that?
indicate when the session is ending.
Do we have any motion to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, or to
Well,
close.
somebody should say into the tape.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion to end the closed session at 8:25.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Great, thank you. Push the red button.